And with the arrest of two wanted terrorist leaders, can Nigerians begin to heave a sigh of relief that the days of the nation being under terror are coming to an end, even as the Nigerian military continues to make efforts to stamp out violent extremists in the country? Kabir Adamu, a security consultant and managing director of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, joins us on Arise Prime Time. Kabir, glad to have you join us. We're just discussing behind the camera, and I was asking you what was your immediate reaction when the announcement of capturing these two leading terrorist leaders was made.
So for a couple of months now, as you know, I run a firm, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, and we do collate data, analyze this data. So one thing we've seen is an improvement in the intelligence, especially precision-led operations by the Nigerian security forces. They were taking out bandit commanders. They were, in some instances, arresting bandit commanders. So we knew there was some form of improvement in intelligence collection that was leading to precision-like operations. And so we're not too surprised with that arrest.
So what brought about what you just explained now, the increase, the things getting better with intelligence? What?
So the thing about security is you have to be mindful what you say in public here. A lot is ongoing at the moment, and the bad guys are listening too, and I think it would not be wise to really mention the what. What is important is there's an improvement in the intelligence capabilities, as well as the coordination between the intelligence players and then the people that are out there in the field, which is leading to the arrest and, in some instances, the taking out. Also significantly, which the country is not paying too much, the media in particular is not paying attention to, is the supply chain that is behind the criminal activities. So they are bombing, for instance, the bases. They are bombing some of the factories that are supporting terrorist activities. And that's significant because it doesn't, in addition to taking out the leaders, when they now limit the capacity of these players to operate, it would help in the long run.
Of course, when you cut out supplies or sponsors of these people, you are practically, basically
suffocating them.
Yeah, that's what it is, because if they don't have armory or arsenal to work with, they'll be grounded. I understand the point of you can't give away your tactics because the enemy is watching. They watch and they know.
Exactly.
All right. How significant a step is the arrest of these leaders in Nigeria's ongoing efforts to combat terrorism and insurgency?
So it depends on what we do with that arrest. A lot of research has gone into how terrorism ends. And I hate to say that in none of those research has taken out the leadership of a terrorist group led to the ending of a terrorist organization. So we need to be very mindful of that. It is important, it is significant if we follow up with certain steps. If you look at our national counter-terrorism strategy, it speaks of 5 things, and I'll quickly mention them. It speaks of forestalling, it speaks of securing, it speaks of identifying, it speaks of protection, and then it speaks of implementation. So each of this has different elements.
Take it again. Forestalling, trying to stop them.
Exactly.
That's like prevention and all that.
And then securing, which means protecting everything that is of value to us, our people, everything. And then, of course, it speaks of identifying, which is investigating, identifying who is supporting terrorist activities, and then it speaks of protection, and then the last one is implementing. Now, all we've done is one component, which is the arrest component. Now, we need to debrief them. We need to follow up with arresting everyone that is associated with them. So there are indicators that observers would have watched to see. And I was very happy when the National Security Advisor in his statement did note that they have been debriefed and that the information that was gathered from them is valuable to further operations.
You want to continue?
I wanted to make the point that what would have been really instructive is to see the further arrest based off on the information that was
Exactly.
gathered on them, especially the cells, sleeper cells as an example that exist, there are networks that are supporting. So all of that, especially given the information that the arrest was made in May and then we're in August now. So it is expected that by the time we became public, we had completely, as it were, made use of the information that was extracted.
Now you have raised, I have a question on that, I'll still bring it up, but now you have raised, when I read about the story, something that bogged my mind. The arrest was made, or the arrests were made, May, July. This is August. Why didn't the NSA, the authorities, let Nigerians know? Why is it coming out now?
Actually, it's commendable. I like the fact that they took their time to debrief these guys, hopefully, based off on what the NSA said, it looks like they've debriefed them, they've gathered enough information. Because the danger of going public too soon is that you forewarn their allies.
Oh.
And so their allies can either go on the ground or hide. So you use that information too wisely. Perhaps even them coming public is to achieve a strategic objective. We don't know, but you have to be very mindful of the consequence of going public. So I like the fact that they took their time. I like the fact that he stated they were debriefed and that they've extracted enough information that would help them in further operations.
So as we're discussing here, I want to wager a guess. As we're discussing, it's probable that, as you said, they've been debriefed, that while they were being debriefed and these two guys were with them, the intelligence community, the security forces were probably seeking out or using the information, let me put it like that, and going to places where...
Ideally, that's how it should be. And, the national security enterprise consists of nothing less than 42 organizations. In an ideal situation, Nigeria's national security enterprise should have those 42 persons seated in a coordination center where information that was extracted. So just to give you a sense, I would expect that the bank accounts associated with those individuals would have been subjected to a forensic investigation, and any name that appears on that bank account, a further investigation would go down to see what monies went to that individual, what the monies were used for, and things like that. So organizations like the NFIU, perhaps even the Central Bank of Nigeria, and name them, would play a role in that regard. Of course, the police too have their role to play in that regard. So that's how a national security enterprise that works in a coordinated manner would handle such an information. They will be debriefed by experts who would extract the last bit of information from them, put it in some form of intelligence form, and then that would be used for operations.
We hope so. Well, a significant step, extraordinary success. UK and US commend the FG over the arrest. What's the import of this commendation from both countries?
Well, the global leader, as it were, for terrorism effort at the moment is the United States. And we know that they've run several terrorist campaigns, including the one that took out the leader of Al-Qaeda. So for them to commend that effort, I think it lends credence to what we're doing. We're hoping that the commendation is not just verbal, it would come with improved information sharing, because they have access to enormous information. And so if it kind of improves the credibility with which they see us, and they're able to support us with additional information in especially intelligence that would help us in identifying so many components of our counter-terrorism priorities, then I think it would help us in the long run. Of course, the same thing with the UK. UK is a closer partner in terms of the kind of support they're giving Nigeria. So that commendation, I think, is in the right step. And it's very likely, too, that the enhancement of intelligence capabilities that I spoke about earlier on may have been with the support of these countries.
Okay, all right. So how does this, how does it affect the security equation in this country?
So that's, I think, the big elephant in the room. I spoke earlier on that there are 5 elements to our national counter-terrorism strategy. And if we're going to achieve success in our national counter-terrorism strategy, we need to look at those 5 elements. The simplest example I'll give you, Indy, is to go to a market in the remotest part of Delta State and ask a woman, just show her the picture of any of the terrorist personalities that we have, and ask her if she's able to identify that individual. Then also ask her that if she identifies that individual, what number is she going to call? As long as we don't achieve that level of involvement of Nigerians within the national counterterrorism strategy, then we're not succeeding.
Oh, this is quite interesting.
That's what the elements speak about. If we speak about forestalling, and forestalling is about enhancing the ability of Nigerians to support our counterterrorism campaign, then the only way we can do that is to make sure every Nigerian understands and supports our national counterterrorism strategy.
Like the police will say, if you see something.
Say something.
But then how do they go about it? I mean, this is getting the people involved. I mean, I was discussing with someone I interviewed here on Nelfo. Now we're talking about leadership, and he was trying to say everybody's a leader,
True.
which is
to an
that
extent,
everyone should be involved. But the question then, how should the security people, the intelligence agency, get Nigerians involved?
So if you look at the 5 components that I talked about, the last part talks about
forestalling, securing, I missed one. Forestalling, securing, protection, implementation.
Implementation is the last one.
Yeah, but which one did I miss there?
I think, when I remember, I would mention,
Okay.
but there's a 4th one before implementation.
Oh, okay.
Now, with implementation, it speaks about making sure that there is an all of government and all of society approach. Now, the challenge in the, and I've spoken about this in the past, the federal government, yes, formulates these policies and then rolls them out. But the issues happen at the subnational level, mostly. There very little happens at the federal level. So the number 1 step is to make sure the subnationals are involved. And because of our military legacy, for some reasons, the coordinators of our national security policy are reluctant to involve the governors. So this is something we need to change. We're in a democratic era, the governors need to be involved. Number 2 is our legislature. They are the closest arm of government to the people. We need to involve them. At the moment, we're doing a lot, but our legislature are not even aware of what we're doing. So we need to involve them. And then, of course, we need to involve the media. We need to involve several other components. Our development partners, they have a role to play. Civil society also have a role. And then, of course, associations. I did talk about the market associations. So, and the beauty of this, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Everything I've mentioned is contained in our national security strategy.
But why are we not doing it? Is it a question of government not being, I mean, even with the FOI, to get information seems to be a hard task. Is it the paradigm the leadership has, not wanting to involve the people?
I think it's a legacy of our military era. Initially, security was state-centric. Protect the state, protect the regime, and then under the Buhari era, we are promised that there will be a paradigm shift to a citizen-centered approach to security. The challenge is we've not implemented that paradigm shift. So I'm hoping that under this administration we'll see an implementation of that, so that the average Nigerian is able to relate more closely with the security imperatives contained in all our instruments. We were speaking about the National Counter-terrorism Strategy. We've not spoken about the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, which also contains a lot of elements. As an example, you are issuing out a contract as a corporate body. You are supposed to check and make sure that the vendor that you are issuing that contract with has not associated in any way with any terrorism act. That responsibility lies on you. But today, how many corporate organizations are aware of that? So we need to embark on serious advocacy to ensure that Nigerians, corporate organizations, understand those instruments and support it. Then we'll be able to make some traction in terms of our national counterterrorism strategy.
I hope I can get, okay, well, the NSA says, that's Ribado, he says that the operation also dismantled Ansar's central command structure. How would this affect or degrade their ability to cause havoc?
So only time will tell whether that statement is correct or not, sadly. And by that, I mean, I did mention earlier on that virtually every research that I've known does not agree that taking out the leadership of a terrorist organization destroys leadership. What is significant in terrorism operation is to reduce their influence. And thirdly, Indy, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, the current socio-economic environment that Nigeria is does not help us in that regard. A lot of people are aggrieved, and so it's easy for terrorist organizations to exercise influence. And so that's what we need to change. We need to make sure that the average Nigerian's grievance that allows terrorist organizations to play upon their psyche and gain that level of influence. And there are a lot of elements embedded in that. One of it is ideological. The other one is also abuse of human rights by security forces, name them. So they play on all of that psychology to gain acceptance and exercise influence. What we need to focus on is to change that influence. Because if we don't change that, another leader will emerge and head that group. If we also don't do 4 other things, which I'll quickly mention, funding, their ability to generate funding, we need to block that as quickly as possible. Their ability to recruit new members, we need to almost make sure that we stop that completely. Their ability to acquire weaponry, and there are several ways that they do that. And then lastly, their mobility. If we do not stop these 4 things, then it will be futile our taking out their leadership.
Time is our friend. I don't like saying time is not our friend. All right. Deradicalization program of the government. How does it sit with you? And then, please, I had a neighbor who had his brother kidnapped. This is very key. And he talked about how certain villages in this country are under the control of these bad elements. They are now living with them, they've made arrangements with them. I believe the government knows about that. What are we doing about that?
Let's start with the first question, deradicalization. Deradicalization is a component of our national counter-terrorism strategy. It was developed when, I think under the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration. And I remember very well in either when Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she was then the Minister of Foreign Affairs, took that document to the UN General Assembly and then sold it to the world, and it was supported. And at the end of the day, about 18 countries and non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations supported our Operation Safe Corridor. So that's an instrument that has been supported globally, including with some of our partners. Whether it's been evaluated, whether it's implemented in the manner that it was originally designed, unfortunately, no independent evaluation of the program has been conducted to allow us to reach that conclusion. I think it's high time that we subject that program to some form of evaluation, even if it's government-led evaluation, so that we know whether we're achieving the objectives that it was set out for. Another challenge is the overwhelming influence of the military. The military are key stakeholders.
Can you quickly touch on the second one? I don't have a time again.
Okay, remind me, what was the second question?
It was about communities where these people are occupied and live with them and they're in bondage.
Earlier on, I spoke about the challenges within associated with our socio-economic environment.
All right.
That's one. And then the limited government presence in certain environments. Yeah. Unfortunately, these bad guys, the criminal guys, are exploiting these students. And so to that extent, they're able to take advantage of communities that are vulnerable, and then they carry on with their activities. Right. I wouldn't use the word that the communities are actively supporting them, but it's a case of being between the devil and the deep blue sea. So sometimes they just turn their heads, and because there's nothing really they can do.
They can do, yeah. Kabir Adamu, MD, Beacon
Security and Intelligence.
Security and Intelligence Limited. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
On Arise Prime Time. Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.